Hello, my name is Alice Etheridge, but you may call me Alice Games. Today, I will be talking about autistic headcanons in game media. Emphasis on it being just games in general and not video games, because I'll be pulling some loopholes with that biz. I feel as though the art, so to speak, of autistic headcanons isn't talked about enough, specifically within the game realm of things, you know? If you just randomly found this video and you're recommended, by the way, I know you're probably asking me, Alice, what is an autistic headcanon? Well, to answer this, I shall say, an autistic headcanon is a narrative that is not officially stated about a character's story, the canon, but is said by a collective of fans, saying that said character is autistic because of certain behaviors they may display. Now then, I would like to move this conversation towards specific characters that I personally headcanon to be autistic. Starting with May from Night in the Woods. She wears the same outfit every day, and also at night. Now, this may just be the developers just doing that cartoony thing where it's kinda easier to use the exact same assets the whole time, so, they do. But it also might not be. Because, you see, within Night in the Woods, there are actual outfit changes from other characters. Of course, it's not literally every character that isn't May that changes their outfits, but I believe this is still a valuable point, as this is behavior known as executive dysfunction. Executive dysfunction is a behavioral symptom seen through certain autistic people that disrupts a person's ability to manage their own thoughts, emotions, and actions. The actions aspect of this can lead to discomfort in changing clothes in certain instances. She likes to stim by jumping on and balancing on power lines, and she seeks sensory through outlandish thrills which are often viewed as weird and abnormal by her hometown of Possum Springs. She seems to not be very high-performing, and considering the fact that she is not canonically on any form of medication, at least to my knowledge, it makes sense. She also has this sort of tendency to just blurt out whatever thoughts come to her mind, which leads to awkward conversations on numerous different occasions, most commonly when she's around unfamiliar people. She's aware that laws and rules exist, but she doesn't seem to apply those concepts to actual life, which might be why she's so quick to get back into her old habit of crimes with Greg, a friend of hers. She may have a hyperfixation on the supernatural, as seen by her dreams, as well as when she hangs out in the graveyard with her friend B, believing, as a 19-year-old, that she may find actual ghosts. Moving on to the first loophole I've used, we will be talking about Boober from Fraggle Rock. Yes, I know, he's a TV show character, but there is a Fraggle Rock board game where he is a player piece, so I guess that's my loophole, sorry. All of my information on Boober I'm choosing to get from episode 15 of the original Fraggle Rock TV series, because that is the most Boober-centric episode I know about right now. And right off the bat, he does not seem to care much about his surroundings. He seems to have a special interest in magical objects, given to him by the Trash Heap character in the show. He is fixated on his magical bottle cap given to him by the Trash Heap, which he then proceeds to lose, which he is then devastated by. This shows an act of materialism in Boober. Not necessarily an autistic trait, but is a common way we might choose to direct our hyperfixations. He then proceeds to sing a song about how everybody is against him, and in his desperation, he decides to go back to the Trash Heap, and he gets another quote-unquote magical object, this time being a blanket. He loses the blanket, gets sad, accidentally causes a near-death experience to his friend Wembley, yada yada. He then seems to show a special interest in laundry, which he enjoys very much and gets better enjoyment out of than materialism. Boober is an odd case. Because of Boober showing traits of many identities and mental states, I personally like to think he is autistic because that's the one that I identify with the most, but others have pointed out to me that he seems more like he has OCD. So maybe you could settle on both if you feel it's more one way or another. I'm gonna settle on both as to not strike too much discourse in my beautiful comments section. Now then, moving on to Aaron from Hello Neighbor. Once again, I'm going to be using sort of a loophole here because I will just be getting my info from the Hello Neighbor books rather than any of the games. Aaron doesn't seem to have a lot of care for people, well, besides his little sister Maya, at least not visibly. When his grandparents died, his family moved into their house, which didn't bother him much. Well, specifically just the fact that it was his dead grandparents' house didn't bother him. He is, however, kind of creeped out by new places, new schedules, and just new things generally speaking. Although at the same time is used to it because he has had to move quite far distances many times throughout his life. He is very interested in picking locks and quite good at it for someone his age, although not particularly good at things that don't interest him, such as school. He is not very sociable, and is perceived as a weird kid by his peers, regarding his often odd behaviors. In one instance, he was peeping through his window at his neighbor Nikki, and Nikki was rather freaked out, especially because he didn't know him, and the lighting of the window made Aaron appear as though he was an elderly man. Though I guess the two did end up becoming friends after the fact, which opens up a whole new can of worms we won't get into today. Brief transition. Sorry to be a marketer in a video about autistic video game characters, but I would like to announce a project I have been working on, and I hope you guys will interact with it. Introducing the Super Tenna Project, a project where I ROM hack every Super Mario game and attempt to replace him with Tenna from Deltarune. You can find every entry that I have so far listed as separate Game Jolt pages, and you can find my account via links in the description of my various announcement videos on specific games within the project. Which, by the way, there are multiple other games I have changed than just the ones I have made uploads about. Make sure to download the games. It's free, and it's fun, too. If you would like to, you can follow my Game Jolt account, as well as individual pages to stay tuned on updates to the project. Anyways, back to the video. Now then, I will be talking about probably the most infamous example on this list, and that is Kris from Deltarune. Similar to May, Kris shares a tendency to find familiarity in specific clothes. I feel as though my explanation wasn't the best before, so I will do a slightly different explanation for Kris. Autistic people often have heightened senses that lead to a strong, positive or negative reaction to certain stimuli. This can manifest in many ways, such as having a very particular food palate, having a specific set of clothes you prefer to wear because they have a pleasurable texture, and being strongly adverse to human touch. Kris seems to show these traits in multiple ways. Of course, I've already stated the clothes example, but they also seem to not eat a lot. They find interest in their mom's pie, but that seems to be the only choice for food we have seen them make on their own. Well, the most notable one anyway. It's not like a weird thing. Because every other example of Kris eating something is forced on them by the player. By the way, if you somehow don't know the basic Kris lore in Deltarune, let me break it down for you. Kris is his own being, separate from you, the player. You are controlling Kris's body against his will the whole game, and sometimes he breaks free of your control. Moving on. Other examples of food Kris decided to eat on their own are moss, huffing the marshmallow dry erase marker in Toriel's classroom, and licking a book page. Kris also does not seem to have very complex dialogue comparatively to those around him, as most of his dialogue is rather blunt. Simple yeses or nos seem to be his strong suit, although there is some other examples of times where he appears more verbal. Kris does not seem to currently have many obvious special interests, although one could say playing the piano is a special interest. I will now be talking about Ink Sands. Hooray! Ink Sands is an alternate version of Sans from Undertale, created by the game's fandom. Ink seems to speak rather bluntly. He teases and mocks people and doesn't see much possible consequence or repercussions being an outcome of his actions. Sometimes this makes him look like a jerk, but he doesn't mean it that way. He just has difficulty understanding social cues and is blunt. Ink also tends to get really excited in certain situations. He does this to such a degree that it can cause discomfort in those around him, unfortunately. He often talks rather loudly and seems to have some spatial awareness issues. He also has very extreme reactions to stress or excitement, and will often throw up in those sorts of situations. He often butts into people's personal space as well without even realizing that he is, and then gets quite emotional when he realizes that things he has been doing may seem morally incorrect to others. Ink hyperfixates on art, and he is an artist, and he likes to paint things and do arts and crafts. Although he is often portrayed as heartless or cold, that really could not be farther from the truth. Despite the fact that Ink is very socially unaware, he tries to help others when he can and gets fulfillment out of it. Last, but not least, we will be talking about Trigger Happy from Skylanders. Trigger is an odd little fellow, and many people perceive him to be crazy and weird because of the way he acts. And perhaps he is. But maybe he's just autistic. Trigger Happy enjoys gold and coins, but not for the reasons that most would. Trigger Happy likes to use gold as projectiles and custom machine guns that he built to fire at enemies of the Skylanders, his key phrase being, "No gold, no glory!" Trigger Happy is an inventor and enjoys building things like guns and cars out of, you guessed it, gold. He is shown to have a reckless and impatient side, as he's willing to dive into danger without waiting for commands, which can cause him to get himself hurt. He is very talkative with his friends, although he has never spoken of his origins. That's about it for Trigger Happy, and this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this, and if you liked it, make sure to hit that subscribe button to make sure not to miss another video, and I hope y'all have a good day/night.